What happens when the man who started it all gets mistaken for a trainee by the very people running his business? Travis Jenkins stood outside the pine-framed entrance of his fifth and newest mountain lodge, a cold wind biting through his beard. The air smelled like pine needles and wood smoke. He adjusted the brim of his beanie, zipped up his borrowed fleece jacket, and took one last look at the name tag clipped to his chest: Trevor, front desk trainee. The disguise was solid. Full beard, thick glasses, rougher clothes, and his usual clean-cut manner swapped for a casual slouch. No one at this lodge had ever met him. It had opened just 6 months ago, and while he'd done the initial hiring online, he hadn't stepped foot in the place. Travis had built his company from scratch, starting with a single-budget cabin he'd renovated himself a decade ago. The idea was simple: affordable, cozy places in beautiful locations. Now he had 5 scenic lodges across the state, each run by a local manager and supported by a small district team. But lately, guest satisfaction at this new mountain lodge had dipped. Reviews mentioned long wait times at check-in, unavailable rooms, and a sense that no one was really in charge. He was tired of hearing it secondhand. So here he was, checking in undercover as a new trainee, supposedly transferred from another location to help with the holiday rush. It was how he'd always done it: show up, blend in, see the truth. Inside, the lobby was dimly lit but warm. A crackling stone fireplace sat near a stack of antler-decorated chairs, and a few guests with snow-damp boots waited in line at the front desk. Behind the counter stood a woman, young, dark hair tied up, sleeves rolled past her elbows. She was typing fast, picking up the ringing phone with one hand while handing a keycard to a couple with the other. "Welcome, folks. Elevators on your left, room 214. Let us know if the heat needs adjusting, okay?" she said, voice pleasant but rushed. The couple nodded and moved on. Travis waited his turn. When the line finally cleared, she looked up at him, eyes a little tired but still sharp. "You the new trainee, Trevor?" He nodded, yes, reporting in. "Great, I'm Jenna Riley, front desk lead. You're stuck with me today," she said, forcing a small smile. "Let's get you started." Jenna didn't ask many questions. She handed him a quick cheat sheet of room numbers and booking codes, then led him through a crash course on the system. She didn't mention the manager once, nor did anyone else appear during the whole afternoon. By evening, the lobby was packed. A snowstorm had delayed several check-ins, and the phones rang nonstop. Jenna barely stopped moving. She handled every complaint with calm, offered free cocoa to restless kids, and even helped a guest find their lost wedding ring near the vending machines. At one point, around 7, Travis leaned in. "Hey, do you want me to run out and grab you a sandwich or something?" She blinked like she'd forgotten other people existed. "I'm okay. I've got some granola bars in the back. Thanks, though." Travis didn't push it. Hours passed, guests came and went. Still no sign of a manager, still just Jenna. Around 9, as the last guests trickled in, Jenna leaned on the counter, rubbing her temple. "Hey," Travis said quietly, "when's your shift supposed to end?" She laughed under her breath. "Technically, 4 hours ago." "You're kidding." "Nope," manager called out again. Said she was stuck at home, roads too icy. That's the 3rd time this week. I stayed because, well, someone's gotta be here. Travis narrowed his eyes. "You're not getting paid overtime for this, are you?" She didn't answer. He watched her carefully. "How many people are supposed to be on shift with you?" "2, me and a second desk clerk, but they quit last week. No one replaced them." "And the manager?" "Disappears most afternoons, says she's handling things remotely." Jenna looked down. "I've emailed the district office twice, no response." Travis clenched his jaw. He'd been told the manager here Sandra was doing fine. She'd reported everything was running smoothly. But this wasn't smooth, this was abuse. He looked around. The lobby was quiet now, just a teenager sleeping on a couch and a couple reading by the fire. The phone finally stopped ringing. "Hey Jenna," he said softly, "why do you stay?" She looked up. "Because I love this place. I helped open it. I know the regular guests by name. It's supposed to feel like home for people. I can't just walk away." Travis felt something tighten in his chest. He nodded. "You shouldn't have to carry all this alone." She gave a tired smile. "It's fine. I'll get through the holidays, then maybe I'll transfer." He didn't say anything else, just watched her walk into the back office, shoulders slumped. That night, Travis didn't sleep well. He lay awake in one of his own lodge's rooms, listening to the wind howl outside, thinking about every time someone had told him they had things under control. They didn't. And tomorrow, he was going to dig deeper. Travis arrived early the next morning, just after the first light broke over the ridge. The snow had stopped sometime during the night, leaving behind a thick white crust over the pine branches and the gravel parking lot. He stepped through the main doors quietly, brushing frost from his sleeves. The lobby was empty, save for the soft hum of the heater and the faint scent of burnt coffee from the unattended pot behind the desk. Jenna was already there. Different sweater, same weary posture. She was bent over the reservation computer, scanning something with narrowed eyes, her jaw set tight. "You sleep at all?" Travis asked as he stepped behind the desk. She didn't look up. "Couple hours. Came in early, had to fix the double bookings from last night." He leaned closer. "These happen often." "More than they should. The system gets backed up. Sandra was supposed to schedule a maintenance update weeks ago. Never happened." He watched her fingers moving quickly over the keyboard, brows furrowed in frustration. He said nothing for a beat, then reached for a pen and notepad nearby. "I'll start keeping a list." She finally glanced at him. "Of what?" "Everything that's broken." Her lips pressed together, but she didn't argue. She slid a sticky note toward him. "Start with the elevator button on the 3rd floor and the ice machine in Wing B." By mid-morning, the lodge began to stir. Guests trickled down for breakfast, heading toward the small cafe tucked beside the lobby. Travis was assigned to cover the desk while Jenna coordinated the housekeeping schedule, a task she apparently handled herself now, since the assistant manager had stopped showing up 2 weeks ago. She didn't elaborate. He didn't need her to. Before noon, a middle-aged man in a gray ski jacket approached the front desk. "You the new guy?" he asked, resting his elbows heavily on the counter. "That's the rumor," Travis replied. "I'm Keith, maintenance. You seen Jenna?" "She's in the back." Keith scratched his chin. "Tell her I'll be late checking the furnace. Got called to unclog a guest toilet in Suite 12. Again." Travis nodded. "That make the 4th time." "5th, pipes in that section weren't insulated right. She knows. Been trying to get Sandra to approve a fix, but I guess she's always too busy running reports." Keith didn't wait for a reply. He turned and walked off, muttering to himself about cracked seals and the wrong type of caulking. Travis added Suite 12 plumbing to his growing list. At noon, a group check-in arrived 7 rooms booked under a company retreat. Jenna returned to help manage the chaos. One by one, they assigned rooms, handled special requests, and apologized for the patchy Wi-Fi, which Jenna explained was due to a router that hadn't been replaced since opening day. When the last of the group finally disappeared down the hallway, she exhaled through her nose and leaned back against the counter. "I'm not sure how much longer this place can hold on like this," she said, voice low. Travis folded his arms. "What would help?" Her eyes flicked toward him. "Honestly, a real manager. Someone who actually shows up, talks to staff, stops pretending emails are enough." He nodded. "And if that doesn't happen?" She hesitated. "Then I'll leave. I've already been offered a job at the Summit Lodge across the valley. More pay. Better hours. I've been holding on here because I believed in what we were building. But it's hard to believe in something when the people in charge don't even show their face. He didn't reply. He couldn't, not yet. By late afternoon, the cafe ran out of hot food. The cook, Marcy, had been working alone since her assistant quit last week. Travis helped haul boxes of snack bars and bottled drinks from the storage room to a small table near the fireplace as a temporary solution. One couple asked if they could get a refund on breakfast. Jenna handled it with practiced patience, offering them a discount on their next stay instead. At 4 p.m., Sandra finally called. Jenna put the call on speaker, not realizing Travis was still nearby organizing guest keys. "Hey, sorry, it didn't check in earlier," Sandra said, her voice flat and distracted. "I've been swamped." Jenna kept her tone neutral. "We've had over 30 check-ins today. The cafe's out of hot food, the elevator's still not fixed, and Keith says the third floor has a leak." Sandra sighed audibly. "Okay, well, I'll see if I can call in a temp from the other location." "You said that last week." "I'm doing what I can, Jenna. I've got 3 properties to oversee." "You haven't been here in over 10 days. Silence, then Sandra's voice stiffened. "I don't need to be physically present to manage effectively." Travis watched Jenna's jaw tighten. "You also haven't responded to the request forms for extra help, or the repair estimates, or the overtime logs." "I told you the budget's tight. We're still in our first year. You need to make do." The call ended shortly after that, with Sandra promising to circle back next week. Jenna didn't speak for a long time after. Travis didn't either. That night, after the lobby cleared again, Travis found her alone at the back desk, staring at the screen. "I'm going to be honest with you," he said quietly. She blinked. "About what?" "I'm not who I said I was." She gave a tired laugh. "You're not Trevor." He shook his head. "Name's Travis Jenkins." She stared at him, as in, "The owner." She leaned back in her chair. "You've got to be kidding." "I wish I was." Her face shifted shock, then something closer to betrayal. "Why would you lie?" "I needed to see it for myself. No filters, no reports, just the truth." She looked away. "You saw it." "I did." He reached into his coat and pulled out the notepad, now filled with nearly 3 pages of issues. "This isn't on you. This is on me. I let it get this far." She stood slowly. "So what now?" Travis looked around the lobby. The cracked tile beneath the front rug, the flickering light near the elevator, the stack of guest comment cards left unread in the tray. "Now I fix it." She crossed her arms, and Sandra. He met her eyes. "She's done." There was no celebration, no sighs of relief, no applause, just a long pause between them, and then Jenna nodded once and walked away to finish her shift. Travis stayed at the desk until past midnight, answering phones and folding laundry bags for the housekeeping carts. The silence gave him time to think. He'd built these lodges to offer people peace, escape, warmth, but somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten that the people who worked inside them needed the same things. The next morning, he'd start making calls, not to delegate but to act. He wouldn't disappear behind emails again. The next morning, Travis didn't bother with the disguise. He left the fake name badge on the nightstand and pulled on a plain navy jacket. No logos, no fleece hoodie, just him. When he stepped into the lobby around 6:30, the space was still and dim, the only movement coming from the automatic fireplace cycling on. Outside, the sky was still dark, but a soft orange glow had started to paint the snow-covered ridgeline. Jenna hadn't arrived yet. He walked behind the front desk and opened the black binder labeled Daily Logs. It was thin, Barely a dozen pages used since the lodge had opened. Most entries were vague, with phrases like no major issues or quiet day. No mention of the plumbing, the Wi-Fi, or the electrical short on the second-floor hallway that he'd seen flicker twice last night. He closed the binder gently and pulled out his phone. 2 calls later, he had a district manager rerouted from the northern region and a local staffing agency searching for emergency front desk help. Neither solution was ideal, but they were the fastest moves he could make before breakfast. At 7 sharp, Jenna stepped through the side door, balancing a paper tray with 2 coffees and a brown bag. She stopped cold when she saw him behind the desk, jacket zipped, no disguise. "So it's not a one-day visit," she said, setting the tray down without looking at him directly. "I'm staying through the weekend, maybe longer." She lifted one of the cups and took a sip, her face unreadable. "You planning to replace Sandra yourself?" "I already did, effective this morning. Interim coverage starts by noon." She didn't sit. She crossed her arms and leaned slightly against the edge of the counter. "And the rest?" "They're on the list. I've got a structural engineer coming to inspect the 3rd floor. Maintenance support from our southern location will be here by evening. I've also got temp support being routed here for the front desk." She exhaled slowly. "That all sounds good, but it doesn't undo what happened here." "I know it doesn't." She nodded once, then turned and walked toward the back office. She didn't slam the door. She didn't raise her voice. But the silence that followed her exit pressed down hard. Travis stood still for a moment, then picked up the phone and called the regional HR lead. There was more to fix than just the operations. By mid-morning, guests began making their way down to the cafe. Travis stayed behind the desk while the temporary clerk arrived an older woman named Linda who had worked with the brand years ago and had returned for short-term assignments. She was sharp, methodical, and didn't ask questions when he introduced himself by his real name. "I heard there were some gaps in leadership," she said as she pulled on latex gloves and started sanitizing the counter. "Glad you're here to see it for yourself." He nodded. "I should have been sooner." Just before lunch, a delivery truck pulled into the lot. 2 men unloaded a stack of replacement routers, a box of new linens, and a crate marked maintenance inventory. It was the first visible sign to the staff that something was changing. Keith, the maintenance tech, appeared as the crates were wheeled inside. He looked at the labels, then back at Travis. "You order these." "I did." Keith gave a slow nod, then motioned toward the elevator. "You should take a look at the boiler room when you've got a minute. You'll want to see the condition of the backup generator, too." Travis followed him down into the basement. The corridor smelled faintly of mildew. They passed 3 unused storage rooms before reaching a metal door with chipped paint and a rusted handle. Inside, the boiler room was cramped, humid, and louder than it should have been. The generator in the corner hummed unevenly, its casing dented and the digital readout blinking red. "I've been patching it," Keith said, wiping sweat from his brow with a rag. "But if the power goes out again, this thing won't hold." "How long's it been like this?" "First signs about 2 weeks in. Sandra told me to defer repairs budget concerns." Travis knelt down and checked the panel. A few of the wires had been reinforced with electrical tape. The warning light blinked steadily. "I'll call in a replacement unit." Keith didn't say thank you. He just walked over to the wall and picked up a clipboard. "While we're down here, take a look at this." The maintenance logs were incomplete. Most entries were vague, inconsistencies between months. Some days had no records at all. "You ever send this upstairs?" 3 times, no response. Travis flipped to the back page and saw a list of parts that had been requested but never ordered. He took a photo, then stood. "I'll approve every item on that list." Keith nodded once, then returned to tightening a valve near the boiler. Travis left him to it. Back upstairs, the lodge felt marginally more alive. Linda had the phones under control, and Jenna was walking a new housekeeper through the scheduling board. The new girl looked nervous, but Jenna's voice was calm, her instructions clear. She was still doing the work, still holding it together. Travis waited until the lobby cleared out again, then walked over. "You've been doing more than anyone should be asked to." "I didn't have much of a choice." "I'm not excusing what happened, but I want to make this right starting with you." She gave him a skeptical glance. "How?" "You're getting back pay for every hour you worked past your schedule. You'll have a say in who we bring in as the next permanent manager, and you'll have access to a direct reporting line. No more relaying things through people who don't show up." She sat down on the edge of the desk, finally letting her shoulders drop a little. "I didn't stay because I believed in the company," she said. "I stayed because I believed this place could be better. I still do. I want you to help me rebuild it." Jenna looked at him for a long second. "I'll try, but it's going to take more than a few supply boxes." "I know." As the sun dipped behind the mountains, Travis stepped out into the cold parking lot. The snow had crusted into ice, and the wind had picked up again. He watched a couple load their bags into a rental car, laughing as their young son tried to catch snowflakes on his tongue. It reminded him why he'd started this in the first place. Not for the profit margins or the expansion plans, but for moments like that. That night, Travis checked into a staff room on the second floor. No luxury suite. No special accommodations. Just a standard room with a slightly crooked picture frame and a lamp that flickered when you turned it too fast. He left the door open while he unpacked his laptop. Down the hall, he could hear Jenna giving instructions to the night clerk and someone replacing a hallway light bulb. Change wouldn't happen overnight, but it had started. And this time, he wasn't leaving it in someone else's hands. By the following Friday, the snow had hardened into icy ridges along the lodge's walkways, and the temperature dropped low enough to keep the roads slick until midday. Travis stood by the entrance in a heavy wool coat, watching a couple unload their luggage from a rental SUV. The woman waved politely as she passed, and he nodded back, holding the door open without a word. Inside, the lobby had taken on a quiet rhythm again, not smooth, far from it, but steadier. The temporary help was holding, and the worst of the backlog had been cleared. Guest complaints had slowed to a manageable pace, and the phones no longer rang unanswered. But the weight hadn't lifted, only shifted. He walked to the back office, where Jenna sat hunched over the operations terminal, reviewing staff availability for the weekend. The screen reflected in her glasses, and the blue light etched shadows under her eyes. "We're still short 2 for housekeeping," she said without looking up. "One called out sick, the others doing doubles at the Ridgeview location." "Linda's staying through Sunday. I confirmed this morning," Travis replied. "I can ask HR to reroute another part-timer for Monday." Jenna clicked once, then turned slightly in her chair. "You'll need a better long-term fix than temps and favors. This place is running on borrowed thread." "I know," he said. "That's why I'm staying another week. I want to interview every person here, one-on-one. No forms, just time." She gave a short nod, not surprised. He spent the rest of the afternoon doing just that. In an unused guest room turned makeshift office, he sat with each employee in 30-minute blocks. The cook, Marcy, came in first, still in her apron, arms crossed. She didn't sugarcoat anything. Supplies had been arriving late, the freezer had been icing over again, and she hadn't taken a full day off in nearly 3 weeks. "I'm not looking for applause," she said, "but I need to know if the people above me are actually paying attention." "You've got my attention," Travis said. "What's one thing you need that hasn't been heard?" "Not a thing," she said. A person, hire me a second cook, not a temp, someone who will stay. Next came Keith. He brought his own chair, an old one from the boiler room, scuffed and stained. He sat without ceremony and laid out a list of equipment that needed phased replacement, not just patch jobs. No drama, just facts and timelines. I'm not quitting, he said, but I'm done making duct tape look like leadership. Travis didn't disagree. The housekeeper, the night clerk, the cafe assistant all had their stories. None were exaggerated. No one asked for miracles. They just wanted to be supported like professionals, not patched in afterthoughts. On Sunday, he met again with Jenna, this time in the office just after closing the books for the weekend. She leaned against the filing cabinet, arms loose at her sides for once. I've seen owners show up before, she said. They make a speech, shake hands, then disappear back into the clouds. I'm not going anywhere. Not the point, she said, her tone even. The point is whether you stay connected when things get quiet again, because they will, and that's when people stop noticing the cracks. Travis ran a hand over his beard, thinking, what would keep that from happening? She didn't hesitate. Local leadership with actual authority, not just names on an org chart, someone who knows the staff by name, who gets called before a pipe bursts, not after. I want that person to be you. She didn't move. I'm not a manager. You're already doing the work. You've held the place together during the worst stretch it's seen. You know the systems, the staff, the guests. I'll provide training, a raise, and a regional mentor. You'll have direct input on hiring your own support team and full control of operations here. She looked at the floor, then back at him. I need to think about it. Take your time. She nodded once and walked out without another word. That night, Travis stayed up reviewing the reports from the other 4 lodges. Most were stable. But he saw the signs more clearly now: gaps in staffing logs, inconsistent order histories, and managers who hadn't logged a full shift in person for over a month. He made a list of site visits for the next 6 weeks. No disguises, no last-minute check-ins, just presence. On Monday morning, Jenna found him in the back hallway, inspecting the cracked tile near the vending machine. You're right, she said. I am already doing the work. I'll take the role. He stood and offered his hand. Welcome to the manager's office. She shook it, but I'm going to need help right away. A real assistant, someone I can train, and a deep clean on the whole staffing process. You'll have both. By the end of the week, the transition had begun. HR posted a new assistant manager position, and the staff was invited to recommend internal candidates. Jenna restructured the shift calendar to make sure no one worked more than 5 days without a full break. Keith was granted approval to start replacing outdated equipment in stages instead of patching it. The cafe received a second cook candidate for vetting. On Friday afternoon, Travis stood by the side window of the second-floor corridor, watching guests return from a snowshoe tour. Laughter carried through the crisp air as they shook snow from their boots and pointed toward the cafe with pink faces and wind-chapped cheeks. Behind him, Jenna approached, a clipboard tucked under her arm. I've scheduled weekly team huddles, she said. 15 minutes every Thursday morning. Just updates and questions, keeps people talking. Good, Travis said. That's exactly what this place needs. She paused, then looked at him. You heading out this weekend? Saturday morning. I'll be back next month for your first quarterly review. She raised an eyebrow. You're doing quarterly reviews now. Face to face, he said, every lodge. She gave a short nod and turned away. Don't forget your room keys still in the staff drawer. He smiled. I'll leave it with Linda. That night, he packed slowly. The staff room still had the crooked picture frame. The lamp still flickered if you twisted it too fast. But the hallway outside was quieter now, not from fatigue, but from things running the way they should. He walked the lodge one last time before turning in. The front desk was manned, the cafe stocked, the guest logs updated in real time. Jenna was in her office, reviewing the hiring shortlist. Keith was checking the backup generator with a new tech from the central team. Even the vending machine had been refilled. He stepped into the cold night air and looked up at the sky. The stars were sharp and scattered, the kind of sky that reminded people why they came all this way. Not for luxury, not for flash, but for something steady, something real. And now, finally, the people running the place had that too.